Hey everyone, it is time for Twitter Scope. We are on episode 80 and we're actually going to talk today about relationships. Hey Sherry, welcome. It is time for Twitter Scope. Let's flip this around. There we go. Hey, welcome. It is time for Twitter Scope today. Happy St. Patrick's Day if you're catching this on the replay. Glad you are here. My name is Dawn Carter, and we are here every single day on Twitter Scope, and we are together pushing back the veil of ignorance that surrounds Twitter. I don't know if you've said this or you've had friends that have said this. I have a Twitter account. I just don't know what to do with it. Or Twitter sucks. I just don't get it. I don't get how to use Twitter to connect with business relationships or prospects or grow my tribe. Thus, Twitter Scope was born. So thank you so much, everyone who's joining. All the past episodes of Twitter Scope can be found at catch.me/decart. And I cannot believe it. We're actually up to episode 80. Not me. I love it. Yeah, I know. Well, you know what, Jojo? The thing is, I think there's this rare breed of people that understand the value of it. And I mean, just the value that you bring. And in fact, that's what I was going to talk about today. It was as if you were meant to be here. Relationships matter. Relationships matter. They always do. So typically I break all of these little points down into 1, 2, 3 or different points, but I just wanted to just give a little shout out about Twitter and building relationships. I actually just got off a blab with Daniel Newman and iSocial Fans was watching, and there was Brian Fanzo, and there was an excellent comment that Daniel made, and he was talking about how Twitter, this has been my experience exactly, how Twitter has led to either business deals or the opening of relationships to people that he would never have had access to. And so if you can think of Twitter as being one of the older platforms that has given you access to people you would never, ever have had before. Now, again, this is assuming that the access is actually with that person, that it is actually that individual who is actually tweeting out. Now, we know in this day and age that especially with CEOs or very high profile people, a lot of times they will outsource that role of social media engagement to an agency, and then within the agency, sometimes it's handed down to an intern or something like that. But I think that people that really understand the relational value would never outsource that. I'll just say that. I mean, there are times and there are places where you would maybe have to have a PR function of something. But I think when you outsource something, you don't outsource relationships. I guess that's just really what it comes down to. You are literally having an opportunity to give people access to you if you are the CEO of a company. That does not mean that you spend your whole day on Twitter. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is maybe you keep office hours. Maybe you use, like I do, the beloved egg timer, the egg timer. So you put limits on it. I'm going to spend 10 minutes. But if you were spending 10 minutes connecting with people on the front line of your product or your service, would that not be of immense value? You're not hearing feedback filtered through an agency or a market research firm or summarized into a nice little graph. You're actually listening to a user who takes the time to tweet you. So it's about relationships. So relationships matter. They matter to your end user, your end customer, because if they have access to you, knowing that they can somehow influence their opinion, people want to be heard. And I think understanding that Twitter is giving access to your frontline customers, I think we sometimes underestimate the value of how people want to be heard. People want their opinions. Now, I'm not talking about the crazy rantings of, someone who, is trying to get some freebie out of your company. I'm talking about, again, it's judiciously engaging and listening to that. So relationships matter. If you are working with a brand, if you are the brand, you are the CEO, you're the head of that brand, I want you to understand that relationships always matter. So number one, it's a great source of feedback from the front line. I want to know if my service is sucking, at my, if it's a restaurant, I want to know if what I can do to improve my business. Absolutely. You don't want to burn bridges. Absolutely. Now, so number one, you want to have that feedback source from people that are on the front line. Yes, and guest satisfaction. Oh my gosh, wouldn't you want to know if that is if you are achieving that, if guest satisfaction or customer experience is actually of value and it's not just some slogan that's on something that's printed? Don't you want to know if they are actually? Now again, within perspective, I'm just saying do not take away that access. So relationships always matter. They matter from the front lines. How about social media managers? Are organizations missing out on those relationships? That's a great question. I don't think, because I think in terms of a social media manager who is, being able to take a look at the whole tribe in general, I think the social media manager would be a great resource to educate, and I would call it executive coaching, and make that sell. Because remember, a lot of times managing is not just managing projects and managing objectives for a company, but it's also managing up. It's also managing the education process, and to do so in a gracious way. So I think that's a great point, that a social media manager would not necessarily be taking that away, but would be offering that and saying, what, here's an opportunity. Or here's another thing, as a social media manager, why not set up a Twitter chat where you can have executives sit down and interact, as a customer engagement kind of, maybe it's a Twitter chat that, you're doing it, you're giving access. Again, it's all about access. And really, in this day and age, access is kind of the new black, right? I mean, to cut through the noise, it's getting access to either people that you would never have. So again, relationships matter. So I've been talking today about a lot about that, relationships on the front lines of me as an executive or as a brand. I don't want to be disconnected. I want to have that connection. But relationships also matter within peers, within the industry. If you want to be considered a thought leader, I wouldn't say want to be considered, if you just are. If the things you're doing are innovative and they are breaking molds and you're trying new things, then you are a thought leader, because what you're doing is you're teaching by example. So I want to say that relationships matter not just within your own customer base, but they matter within the media. They matter within within your industry. So take advantage of Twitter. This is Twitter Scope, right? So it's all about using Twitter to have access to people. Donna's awesome. Give her some. Oh, Nick, thank you. The whole point being, you want to be able to use whatever the tool is to build and grow that know, like, trust continuum with whether or not it's within the industry or whether or not it's with its potential collaborators, whatever it is. Use Twitter and access it gives to build relationships, because it all comes down to relationships, right? I mean, there are great conversation today. I, was again just listening to people saying, well, can social media relationships ever replace in real life? And it's not one or the other, people. I mean, there are folks that you can meet and begin a relationship. Something is ridiculous around a hashtag or at a Twitter scope. You absolutely, yes, transparency is key, but you can sometimes find each other because of a topic. And Don and I have built a relationship via Twitter and then took it to real life. Exactly. So yeah, Nick Rishween, who's just hopped on here on Periscope, we met up at the Blab meetup in San Francisco, and it was awesome, because again, you have history, where they're coming from, what their ethos is, but then when you meet in real life, it's like you kind of got a little bit of a jump start already. So I think that it will never be one or the other. If you have the opportunity to meet up in real life, do so. And again, I know a lot of that is personality driven. There are going to be, introverts within the crowd that would say, you know what, I only have so many energy units. Why would I waste them on someone that I just barely know? And again, if it comes down to strategic and judicious use, introverts, of your energy units, do so with purpose, not just haphazardly. That's right. I haven't been on Twitter Scope as much as I might have. That's fine. Anyway, relationships matter. I just have to say, I have met and collaborated with great people because of Twitter, Periscope, and Blab. Exactly. So It's all about the relationships, folks. It is always going to be about the relationships, especially if you are using Twitter to grow your business and to grow. And again, that's not a horrible, negative, awful thing. It is a good thing. But let's model it well. And it is about relationships. So what makes a good relationship, is going to make a good relationship for business, transparency, honesty, integrity, those types of things. So, and gratitude. I'll just say that. I will throw that in there as well. So in Twitter, the Twitter world and all of that, just keep it real. It's always about relationships. And my word of encouragement today is even for those introverts. You can tell I have a husband who's an introvert and a 17-year-old daughter who's an introvert. So we have these discussions all the time in the Carter household about it is okay. Even if you're an introvert, you can still do this. You just have to adjust and you have to put limits on it and then probably go take a nap later after to go recharge your batteries. So anyway, that's it for Twitter Scope today. I am so glad you guys were able to join me. Pass this along in the replay. And again, you can catch all the old episodes at catch.me/decart. And let's make, as my dogs start barking, let's make Twitter suck less, one scope at a time together. We can do this. And let's keep modeling the good behavior and the good culture we want to see. So thanks for hopping in here. And I will see you. Bonjour and au revoir. I will see you later. Bye-bye, everyone.